So it was really good to meet all of you in the introduction. As I said, it's a really fantastic group. Such an eclectic mix of experiences, backgrounds, and sort of needs from the course as well. So it should be a really fantastic week. So we're going to kick off the week with the first presentation, which is called The Principles of Golf Club Management. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's see it. Now, can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, so just very briefly, a little bit about the GCMA. I'm sure you've read some of the information that I've sent to you on this. And by the way, feel free at any time to jump in. I don't expect you to save your questions until the end. Just if you have any questions, please just shout out. We're a small group, and I think we can behave ourselves sufficiently to not have to mute you and unmute you and raise your hand and all that sort of stuff. So please just shout out your questions. So the GCMA, our beginnings, 1933, the Association of Golf Club Secretaries was formed in and around the London area. And basically just a group of golf club secretaries, as the role was known as then, which is very much a subservient role. They were lucky enough to be allowed into the clubhouse to do their job at that time, but the members were very much quite the private members club was has its history in the private members clubs of London itself, of the city. And then obviously applied to the golf club setting. As golf clubs grew exponentially, really in the 20s, as amenities for local communities, so the role became more and more common, and these guys got together. So, and we're very thankful that they did. That's why we're here today, and we have a job. So that role sort of continued, but in 2007 there was a change, and it was realized that the role of club secretary was really becoming less and less common, and the role of club manager was becoming more common. So the name of the association was changed from AGCS to GCMA. We're primarily a membership organization. We have approximately 1,600 members. So if you consider that in the UK there are roughly 2,400 golf clubs, we've got a pretty wide reach throughout the country. It's very rare that we have more than one member per club, because that is the nature of the role. It's a very singular role. Whereas as the Greenkeeping Association, for example, BIGA, they would have roughly 6,000 members. The PGA, 8,000 members. But that's because you can have 2 or 3 or possibly even 4 or 5 of their members in the same golf club. So we're quite a slightly smaller association, but hopefully we're punching above our weight. What do? We represent our members at a national level. We have a seat at the top table in golf with the other professional associations, as mentioned before. Also, we work very closely with the home unions, England Golf, Wales Golf, Scottish Golf, and Golfing Union of Ireland, or Golf Ireland as it's called now. And also, obviously, with the R&A. So we were there at the Open this year as guests of the R&A. So we put forward the case of golf club managers to those other organizations, and make sure that the club manager is considered at all stages. Normally, possibly the most important person in the club to implement change. We support our members. We have a helpline. We have a human resource helpline. We also have a legal helpline for our members if ever they need it. We don't have a well-being helpline, but we do signpost well-being whenever our members have that need as well. So that's really the support and to educate, which is really what we're doing today. The principles course is our main training course at the moment. Although I am working on a project which hopefully will produce a further education program, and that should be delivered by the end of February. Just looking at my wall chart for that one. So that hopefully that's something we can maybe talk about a bit later. Why do we do it? We love it. It's a role where you can really make an impact. You can really make a change, and you can make people's lives better. You know, the golf course. I often think, you know, once you get to a certain age, you're either on the golf course or you're in an old people's home. Golfers do live longer. They're healthier mentally, physically, and emotionally, and so there's an awful lot of positives to the role that we do, but also the younger members coming through, you know, generating golfers of the future. And hopefully, you know, I always felt that the world would be a better place if there were more golfers in it. So that's why we do it. The 10 core proficiencies. Why the word proficiency? Anyone who's involved in education, Lance, you'll recognize this. They talk, there's an awful and human resources as well. They talk about core competencies within a role. Now, the word competence to me sounds a little mediocre. If you're competent at something, then it means that you can do it. But if you're proficient at something, it means you're actually really good at it. So that's why we've chosen the word proficiency. We don't have any rules. Nobody can tell us that we don't have to do it. We have to stick to competencies. So we did it that way. And personal and professional development. Well, that's really what this course is about. It's having a look at yourself as an individual and how you can make yourself better. And you know, and through your own sort of personal skills, human skills, or soft skills as they're referred to. But also your technical skills, which you'll find that this course is sort of quite evenly divided between those two sides. So we shall move on. These are the 10 core proficiencies. I won't go through them because we are going to go through them one by one. We're going to start off with well-being and golf in the community. What is well-being? You'll probably recognize it as possibly moments of stress, anxiety, in a worst case scenario, depression, but also resilience. And there's all of those factors are involved in your well-being. Positive mental health is the goal. We don't ever want to get into a situation where we do slip into those other areas mentioned above. We need to be proactive with regards to well-being instead of reactive. So it's sometimes the helpline, for example, is when things have gone too far. So if we understand what the tools of keeping ourselves with positive mental health are, then you know we can avoid those situations, and not only for ourselves, but recognizing that in others as well. So it is personal. The personnel, your members of staff, the members of your golf club, and the wider community. So that's how well-being, knowledge of well-being, and positive well-being can grow. You start off with yourself, and hopefully from there it can extend outwards. We also talk about social responsibility as the club manager. The sustainability really is the key word there in all of that, and making sure that everything you do or doesn't have a negative impact on the environment. Golf clubs should be carbon positive golf clubs. I think it's either carbon positive or carbon negative. It's one of the two. but it's because we're in charge of such large green areas, then I think it's actually carbon negative, and that we should be. So we should be giving back to the environment is basically what I'm trying to say. Development of junior golf, again, that's mentioned earlier, very important, and also the golf and the aging population. We have an example of someone who's worked with us before, a guy called Anthony Blackburn, who works with people with dementia and Parkinson's, and takes them to the golf course to get them to try putting and hitting golf balls. And it makes a massive difference to their life. I don't know if anybody saw the BBC Breakfast News this morning. They had the guy who's done the composer with 4 notes, got the opportunity to work with the BBC Orchestra, and that's how music helped to change. Someone with dementia helped to change their lives. Golf can do the same. So that's obviously something that you possibly look at whenever you're in the role, and as part of a hub of the local community. We'll move on to the next one. I'm going to show you this video. This is leadership, management, and enterprising skills. And hopefully this video will work, but I will stop sharing because I know I've missed something. So I need to go back and do it again. Start sharing again. Now I've lost my presentation. There we go. Now, fingers crossed, this is where the technology hopefully works.
Hey, I'm Russ Ruffino, and if you're a coach, consultant, expert, author, or speaker, I have just one question for you. Do you
Can everyone see that okay?
No.
No?
Music, but no picture.
Okay, so sorry, a little bit of feedback there. You could hear it okay?
Yeah, there's no video though.
There's no video.
No, we're stuck on the 10 core proficiencies page.
Okay, all right.
So we can see the submarine, but that's it.
Yeah, who can see the submarine?
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, okay, that's it then. So if I just press play now, hopefully that'll work.
I was trained for one submarine. My guys were trained to do what they were told. That's a deadly combination. We all know organizations where people just follow the leader into disastrous situations.
Still submarine,
I
Gavin.
got my guys together and I said, hey, we got a problem here.
Hear it.
I was trained for another submarine. You're trained to do whatever nonsense comes out of my mouth.
Sorry, that's so that's not working?
No.
You can hear it, you just can't see it.
Okay.
I don't know. It might be because, on my screen anyway, we've got the images of everybody on the call sort of overlaying the submarine a little bit. I don't know whether we might all need to, get rid of that almost.
No. What I'll do, guys, I'll actually send that to you as a separate part of the presentation. So we'll not worry about that. I shall go out of that.
It's all going well though.
Well, it was until that point. It's, as I say, it's the technology. I'll need someone to
We can
step
listen
in.
to it, we just can't see it.
Well, quite visual, so so that won't work. But let me go back to the presentation and. Okay, so we shall move on from that leadership, management, enterprise skills. Okay, hospitality, food and beverage, and customer service. So here we're going to look at the role of the food and beverage manager, and we'll be doing this today with Stephen. Stephen will also discuss with us the sort of the pros and cons of keeping your food and beverage operation in-house or franchising it out. And the country and golf clubs are pretty much 50-50 split on that. And so there are pros and cons for both. And also probably a recommendation at the end of that as well. How to equip your food and beverage operation, how to staff your food and beverage operation. Obviously the hygiene, health and safety, which we'll be looking at with Stuart Fotheringham during the week. Sales skills, hugely important. Upselling for your operation. I always think that members who are spending money are happy members, although they might not say it at the time. So hospitality in the golf industry, event management, your food and beverage strategy, and managing multiple food and beverage operations. So those are just some of the subject areas that you could cover within food and beverage. And that's everything that's held within our program of hospitality. Golf club legislation and compliance. So this is really about protecting the golf club from external dangers. So it's understanding and having a good working knowledge of the legislation relating to golf clubs and golf facilities. Safeguarding, which was an initiative brought in by England Golf, and that's that's within every golf club now. I think almost every club in the country signed up to that. Doing your fire and risk assessments. I'm sure anybody who's actually in the role has had risk assessments up to their eyeballs over the last year or so with COVID. Golf club licensing laws relating to your food and beverage operation. Human resources and recruitment, how to place an advert, what you can say, what you can't say. We shall have a look at that as well later on in the course. Restructuring. Obviously, as we mentioned, maybe one or two of us have been victims of that in recent times. Really, when a club decides that the current structure for staffing isn't correct, and they need to look at changing that, or it is perhaps to remove a certain individual that's having a negative effect on the team working, and then obviously handling that, the redundancy management, so that you don't fall foul of any litigation. Understanding contracts. As a club manager, you will be looking at contracts on a fairly regular basis, whether it's employment contracts or supplier contracts, service agreements, all those things. So you will need to understand what you're looking at. On to membership management. And this is really, how you spend an awful lot of your time day to day with the membership, talking to them, finding out what they want, what they like, what they don't like, getting to know them. And I think that's part of the hospitality experience that we're looking for within golf clubs these days as well, as a little bit more personalization. And so as the members feel at home. Now this may be relatively easy in a sort of a small club, but if you're part of a club with 1,000+ members, then it becomes a challenge. So it's really something that you need to implement in process form, really, with your staff from day one. It's and that's getting to know the members as people. They will certainly have the members will have an emotional connection with the club, or an attachment to the club. And if they feel that the staff don't, then there's a bit of a disconnect there. So we really want our staff to be personal with the members, and have that sort of family feeling around the club, that they're at a home, second home, if you like. New member onboarding, something that we will be talking about later with the volunteer pathway. But a very important process is when you do receive a new member, their first 6 months within the club normally decide whether they will stay long term or whether they will start to look for a different club. So possibly the most important part of that is having the technical proficiency to play the game. So that's where the role of the golf professional comes in, and is absolutely key to getting the new members involved in the club, hopefully getting them into a routine as well of coming to the club. So as they, they get that sort of technical competence, really is perhaps the right word, because we don't expect them to be fantastic players, but good enough to go out and enjoy the golf course, and getting them onto the golf course as quickly as possible. Different membership categories. Flexible membership is a new membership category that is gaining quite a lot of traction, especially with the increase in home working. You've 5-day membership, 7-day memberships, social memberships, something that a club manager can look at and make forecasts for the future to protect the long-term financial health of the club. These categories may need to change, but there's some very good information also from in Jerry Kilby's presentation about the golfer's life cycle. You can actually spend quite a lot of marketing budget on trying to attract new members to the club. Obviously, we're in a situation of boom at the moment where a lot of clubs have waiting lists, but that may very well be temporary. So it's certainly important to have the skills to attract new members, but it's where to spend your marketing budget. Who should you be aiming that marketing campaign at to attract members, and having your membership categories correct really ties into that very well. Guests, visitors, and the customer journey. Who can tell me the difference between a guest and a visitor?
A guest comes with a member.
Yeah. Simple as. Nothing more complicated than that. A guest relates more to private members clubs, where you can't actually pay for a green fee. So the only way perhaps that you can play the course is as a guest, and visitors just tend to be sort of green fee paying customers. So that's the distinction. What we'll find as well in Jerry's presentation is that there are extremely few private members clubs in the UK, and they're very rare indeed. Almost every course now will accept a green fee paying visitor. So the sort of the true sense of the word guests is it's being diluted significantly. And understanding the customer journey is an important part as well. And from the moment that someone has a light bulb moment and thinking that they might like to look at your website, to the point where they actually become a customer of yours, what does that experience feel like for them? And that's something that we'll be looking at as well. Membership services. So once you have members in the club, what services do you provide, and what service levels do you provide? Hopefully it's something that Stephen will be talking about as well within the food and beverage presentation, because that will very much depend upon your members and how much they're willing to pay, obviously for the service level and the amount of services that they have within their club. Golf club communications, hugely important that you're good communicators as club managers, both written and oral, very important. So for those of you whose written English isn't perhaps what it could be, just bear in mind that that's still a very powerful means of communication in golf clubs, whether it's the weekly e-newsletter, or letters that are sent out to the members asking them for money, or whatever it may be. Being able to write a letter, a business letter, is a very important skill. Member surveys, how to do a member survey, or where do you look? What companies are available to do member surveys? You do of course have SurveyMonkey is one, but within the golf industry, we tend to use or prefer Club 59, who will do a mystery shop of your course and sort of teach you how to do member surveys. Or a new entrant into the market is called Players First. Now they may actually be available through your England Golf affiliation, a sort of light version of their survey. I'd recommend anyone to have a look at that if they could. Players First are a very, very good company. Policies, etiquette, and codes. Three of the fundamentals of a golf club. Basically, it's all about rules, isn't it? Which is perhaps not what we want to be promoting, but it is important to have these in the club. It does depend on your members and what they want. I think an important part of being a club manager is to remember that it's actually their club. So you can only advise and direct and nudge wherever possible, but at the end of the day, they're entitled to have the club the way that they want it. But the important thing about that is that it is the full membership or the majority of the membership that want things that way. And that's why doing member surveys is so important, so that those members who don't normally voice their opinion or don't partake in the clubhouse chat or the gossip or whatever it may be, or get involved as a volunteer, that they still have their say in how their club is run, so that the policies and the etiquette and the codes are for everyone within the club and not just the few who make the most noise. Sales and marketing for memberships. And so obviously, again, going back to the attracting members through understanding your membership categories, it's then understanding marketing and the sort of the modern way of advertising and bringing people, getting people interested, attracting people, whether it's through Facebook, social media, or traditional forms, and having that function ready to go whenever it's needed. And perhaps not even just for memberships. If memberships are strong at the moment, which we know they are, it could be for functions, just understanding what sales techniques you need to bring people in for weddings, baptisms, birthday parties, etc., to hopefully make good use of some of the spaces within your club that are perhaps underused. So it's always, those are always good skills to have. And finally, values versus traditions is a subject where it's really a discussion about golf clubs and the future of golf clubs. So that's something we won't be able to cover all of this week. I think that will be a little bit of a mountain to climb, but we will touch on each of these at some point. But values versus traditions. Traditions, of course, are important within golf clubs, but not to the point where we lose our values. The values actually supersede traditions, and traditions can change and new ones can be formed. But I think some golf clubs have a little bit of difficulty in accepting that. So we shall move on to the accounting and finance. Basically, as a club manager, you would need to be proficient with cash flow forecasts, budgets, the profit and loss account, and the balance sheet. Those would be the four principal reports that you would need to put in front of your board. Some of them don't require that. Some of them are quite happy with a budget which looks like a bit of a profit and loss account. It does depend on the club and the board. So I guess that's the sort of information that you need to find out. But if you have the background and understanding that then that's important. Business planning. So it's really being able to write a business plan for your club. Business planning tends to be up to a 3-year period. Beyond 3 years, you're starting to look at strategy, a long-term strategy, 3 to 5, possibly 10-year periods. But business planning is really, in the foreseeable future. So it's understanding how to put together a business plan. Something that's not mentioned there, VAT. You should also know how the VAT system works. And how to apply that. If you do have experience working with Sage or Xero for some of the accounting software packages, then that's a plus normally as well. CapEx projects, capital expenditure, when you do need to invest in the clubhouse or invest on the golf course, what are the sources of your finance? Money is obviously quite cheap to borrow at the moment, so it's perhaps a good time to borrow money to do those projects, and particularly if you do have a waiting list now in your club, then it's you're in a strong position to hopefully carry out those projects. And I think even some of golf clubs with the lockdown, they took advantage of that, even through the uncertainty of the pandemic. Being able to formulate an insurance policy for your club, and not as simple as you might think, and certainly don't take the word of the insurance broker. It's important to understand how the policies and how your fees, if you like, from insurance, how they change and why they change. It's supply and demand, like most markets. So understanding what's going on in the world helps with that as well. Strategic financial planning, as mentioned, slightly different from business planning, and that's really looking at the long-term financial health of your golf club. The sources of finance, banking is normally the bank will be your first port of call, but there is such a thing as crowdfunding these days as well, and there is change in how finance can be sourced. So it's good to know about it. You may not use it, but it's good to know about. An investment strategy, if you are a club with certain assets, then you may wish to invest those assets in a long-term view for your club, perhaps buying some property, and it's useful to have that information on hand if needed. Golf business models and their governance. So really this recognizes the fact that the golf club, there are many different types of golf clubs, and even within those different types of golf clubs there are different types of golf clubs. I think that the overall message that we would put out there is that you understand what your golf club is, what is your club about, what level is it pitching at. If you were to try and sell your golf club to somebody interested in buying it, what would you say to them? What level is this golf club? What is it good at? If you're built on 50 acres of flat parkland with fledgling trees on it, don't try and sell yourself as a championship golf course. It's just not. So it's important to know who you are as a club, and what you're good at, and what your limitations are. And I think that way you can be a successful club. Normally clubs get into trouble when they try and be something that they're not. So those are the different golf clubs. And within golf clubs, you can have, as we mentioned, private and semi-private members clubs. Semi-private being the majority of clubs in the UK. We have proprietary and public golf courses, public golf clubs, municipal, owned by the counties, owned by the council, sorry, which are under serious threat at the moment, the municipal courses. A lot of councils are desperate for land for housing, and they're looking at golf courses as a possibility for that. And that, coupled with the fact that they normally aren't run very well and run by people who don't understand golf in general, then it's becoming quite attractive to councils to sell those golf courses for property. Some other councils have decided to rewild their golf courses and just let them grow or overgrow, whatever way you would perceive that. So it is a challenge. It is a challenge for the municipal courses at the moment. There are quite a few investors buying up municipal courses as well, who actually do know how to run it. So the proprietary sector is very interesting as well. and obviously the difference between proprietary and semi-private members clubs was brought to the fore during the pandemic, and the different approaches taken by both sectors. But really, it's just understanding the different models and how they work. Country clubs and resorts, again, slightly different. Really looking at perhaps a little bit more sort of tourism when it comes to resorts. And then the country clubs are really where you offer more activities in the club than just golf. Tennis, squash, some of the racket sports, swimming pools, perhaps a spa. I was lucky enough to work at a couple of country clubs myself, so it really is a family environment, and I think it's something that golf clubs could maybe look at to if it's suitable for the club, bearing in mind what I've just said about knowing what your club's limitations are, but if it is possible, to look at making the golf course and the golf club a much more family-oriented experience. New and developing golf business models. Top golf would fall into this category. Adventure golf, foot golf, all sorts of different short formats of the game, pitch and putt. There's space for everyone. There's space for all of these models, and they can be very successful. And really, they do help to grow the game. It's a really good place to get people started with golf and get them interested in golf. And hopefully it's a useful stepping stone to actually becoming the member of a golf club and getting more into the game, the traditional form of the game as we know it. So then this subject area, or so this module, gets into the governance side, understanding your committee and board dynamics, skills-based boards, the volunteer pathway, as we've mentioned a couple of times now. It is absolutely key to the role of golf club manager, because these are the people that you have to work with, in particular the chair. That the relationship between the club manager and the chair is absolutely critical to the success, and your own mental health. I think it's because that's at the end of the day, that's that if that's a positive relationship, then I think all bodes well for the future. But if you start having difficulty with your board, and as mentioned, at the end of the day, it is their club, then perhaps your days are numbered at that club, and you may need to start looking for another one. The average tenure for a golf club manager has reduced significantly over the last 20 years. 20 years ago, it was roughly 11 years, and that's down to 4.5 years now, is the average for a golf club manager in a specific role. And it really does, it is that difficulty. And it's the boards tend to change. So perhaps if you've had a run-in with a member at some point, then that member finds their way onto the board and into a position where they can actually affect your day-to-day life, and then that's when things get difficult. So it's understanding that those dynamics, how they work. Boards change as well. So for those of you who are looking to get into the role, one of the difficulties that you may well have found is that golf club committees or golf club boards are very conservative, but it's normally because they're only in that position for 2 to 3 years. So if you have that sort of limited time, then you don't want to be the one to make the big mistake. So that's why they're extremely conservative in their decision making, and they will normally go for a manager probably inferior to what your skill set may be. But the fact that they've done it before, or maybe with a club down the road, then that's what sort of forms their decision, or helps inform their decision. Stakeholder management, it's really just understanding who is invested in your club and what they have invested in your club. Stakeholders normally means actual financial interest in the club, but hopefully today it's understood as an awful lot more than just financial. I would say the members of staff are stakeholders in the club. They're committing their lives, they're a significant part of their lives to actually working at the club. So yes, they do have a stake in the success of that club. And that, so you can use the word stakeholder to describe sort of pretty much anybody and everybody who's in and around the golf club. Understanding a golf club's legal structure: who owns the club, who owns the land, what's the difference between a golf club and a golf course? Is it the same thing? You'll find golf clubs that operate on different golf courses. They're essentially a golf club is a group of people, and the golf course is the actual land and property. So there's that distinction to understand within that, and Jerry will do a great job of explaining that to us tomorrow. Strategic planning, as mentioned before, that's your long-term goals, 3, 5, 10 years. Very difficult in golf clubs, as we mentioned, with boards changing quite frequently. Strategic plans often get set to one side and forgotten about and changed as soon as a new board comes in. So obviously there are challenges there that we need to work on. Hopefully once a strategy has been agreed upon, then that hopefully could be ring fenced. So as club manager, that would be something you would be pushing for, that remains constant and consistent to help the long-term health of the club. Understanding your constitution, bylaws, articles of association, mentioned before, the idea board and how to get there. So that's talking again about the volunteer pathway and how to shape your board of the future. We'll move on. Golf operations. It's really just this is possibly the area that we understand the best, because we either play the game or we've worked in this area. It's what you see on TV, people playing golf. What sort of services do they need around that? Buggies, practice ranges, golf balls, marshals on the golf course, starters to send them out on the golf course, but also how to manage all of that. Retail as well, the pro shop. Good to have an understanding of that. It may be that the golf pro is self-employed, but more and more golf pros are being employed by the club as a member of staff, and that'll be hopefully a discussion we can have with Scott tomorrow. And finally, the golf course, which we will get on to today with Stuart, and really just understanding what the golf course looks like from the underneath upwards is really the way we would look at it, I think. What does it look like from from the soil? What sort of soil is used to, what's your golf course built on? How was it designed? What sort of irrigation and drainage does it have? Because these will all affect the health of the grass and the turf. So understanding that, and then obviously the maintenance procedures. There's some very, very big budget items in there. Golf club machinery is normally one of the major investments for any club manager. So understanding what it's needed for, what its life expectancy is, how to get the most out of that, through different practices. And also the sustainability is a massive issue. Mention it again that there's an argument going on that we have really overcomplicated golf courses, and that has been done on purpose through big business, and trying to take a backward step from that is not going to be easy, because there's an awful lot of profit that is made through golf courses and golf course companies that will be in threat if we return to golf courses that are a bit more naturally prepared. But that's the way things are going. So you need to be prepared for it as a club manager. So I'll just briefly say project management is actually an important skill to have. As a club manager, if you have that in your skill set, then it saves the club money from bringing in a project manager. And that's basically having the knowledge to be able to take something from an idea all the way through to implementation. So with all the time scales, costs, interdependencies, etc. So very good skill to have. Right, so technology would be the final one that we talked about. We'll be talking through with Peter Williamson later on this week. Runs through absolutely everything we do. At conference this year, we have technology as one of our themes, as well as sustainability and well-being. But technology is becoming ever more important in everything that we do. Again, there's a big argument between having a all-encompassing software system for your golf club or individual systems that are perhaps more specific and operate at a higher level within that sort of area of expertise, but an open API policy where these different systems can talk to each other, so that the manager actually doesn't really notice the difference. So that's the big debate in technology at the moment. And innovation is also, you know, an important part of the role, one of your personal skills, that you can innovate and be creative and resourceful in the role. So that's everything. You know, the GCMA education program, I can talk to you through the week, or maybe perhaps we'll leave that for the final day. That's some of the things that we do for our members. And so I'll just leave that open to you there for any questions on those issues. It's really just setting the scene for the week, and there's no real learning in there today, but that's really just what you can expect from the upcoming week. So I'll stop sharing my screen there. There we go. Any questions on that? Stunned silence. Good. Okay, well, we have our illustrious compatriot Stephen Brown waiting in the wings, ready to give his presentation on food and beverage. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning. Good morning to you, and good morning to everybody else. What ho?
Morning.
How are we all? Am I facing the right way? Hello?
Yeah. Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Ah, there we are.
Morning.
Splendiferous. Right, hang on just 1 second. Just keep them talking for a second.
No, you're fine, Stephen. We're actually going to take a 5-minute break. Okay?
Perfect. Perfect.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So see you then. See you in 5 minutes. I'll stop the recording there.